please turn off your video. Please use the raise hand feature or the chat box for the question and answer segment. And finally, please be reminded that your messages will be public and on record. So please refrain from inappropriate and indecent language. I would now like to invite Miss Melissa Baker, Assistant to the Ambassador, to lead us in prayer.
Thank you, Ms. Salmon. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here tonight, I just want to give you thanks and praise for your continued blessings upon us. We pray that you continue to bless our family. Dear Lord, we ask that you be gracious to us, bless our land, and shine your face upon us as a nation. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask for strength, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding for our leaders so that they may be able to face the different challenges of our beautiful country, Jamaica. Lord, you said where two or more are gathered, you are present. So as we go through this program, we ask that you be with us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Baker.
You're
It
welcome.
now gives me great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome our host, Her Excellency Audrey Marks, Ambassador of Jamaica to the United States. Ambassador, over to you.
I'm not seeing anything. All right, I guess maybe I'm just not seeing the view, but thank you, Ms. Salmon. And thank you, Ms. Baker. The first I'm hearing you pray. We're going to give you an additional job in the embassy, chaplain. So it's so good to see you all again for another Let's Connect. You know, it has been our pleasure over the last few months to start having functions at the embassy. And last week when we saw the snow and the cold temperatures, I was saying, let's go back virtual until we get to more normal temperatures. We thought today would be a very cold day. So we decided to just do virtual, nothing at the embassy. And today is 65 degrees. We could have had a nice get together. So next time we will make sure that we continue to have open doors at the embassy so we can meet in person and online if you can't make it to the embassy. Well, it's my pleasure this evening to go straight into the program and welcome. I see quite a few familiar faces. And let me start with our Consul General. I see Mrs. Alcian Wilson and Mr. Oliver Mayer, the consul general from New York and from Miami, respectively. And let me see, I see quite a few of our honorary consuls also on. Mr. Christopher Chaplin from Philadelphia, Dr. Elaine Brand from Atlanta, Mr. Raymond Connell up there in Seattle, and Mr. Omari Fullerton from over in Houston. Did I miss anyone from our honorary consuls? All right, let me also recognize some of our diaspora leaders that are on. I see Mrs. Michelle Taro and quite a few of our Global Jamaica Diaspora Council leaders are on. Ms. Aisha Richards, Mr. Peter Gracie, Ms. Shauna Chin. I welcome you all and all our other diaspora leaders, President of Najaso, Dr. Ali. We have Ruki Wilson, President of Jamaica Nationals Association, Rick Nugent, President of the Jamaica Association of Maryland, Mr. Everett Reynolds, President of the Atlanta Jamaica Association. And as we go along, we'll keep recognizing. I see my friends from UJA. I thought, you keep moving the screen? So I'm not seeing everyone, but know that I appreciate you. Yes, Ms. Leslie and Salmon, is here, Samuels is here, and all of our other friends. Thank you for turning up. This evening especially, I wanted to make sure that many of our diaspora leaders are here so that wherever there are questions, we can provide answers. So it's a pleasure to welcome you to this another edition of Let's Connect. I'll go straight into the first part of the program where we'll welcome a major investor in Jamaica. You know, part of sometimes the angst that is expressed by our diaspora is wondering if Jamaica is moving along, if we're making progress. And so I thought at this time when we have a company wanting to invest $1 billion to do a major development in Jamaica, it would be a good idea to hear from the CEO on the factors that are motivating this investment, and also to share opportunities with you, the members of the diaspora, that may arise from this investment. So I'll ask Ms. Taylor to do a brief introduction of Mr. Christopher Anand. And we go right to Mr. Christopher Anand after the introduction.
Thank you, Ambassador. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Christopher Anand is Chief Executive Officer and Senior Partner of Nexus Luxury Collection, which is a portfolio of private clubs, hotels, and destination resorts, luxury resort communities, events and experiences, and hospitality concepts. Mr. Anand led the development of the luxury resort community of Albany in the Bahamas and an array of related businesses in the portfolio. Mr. Anand is a former investment banker at HSBC and Morgan Stanley. He holds a Master of Business Administration in Finance from Texas Tech University.
Yes. I think we are having difficulty locating Mr. Anand. If you could just raise your hand so that the administrator can locate you and you can come on.
He's listed as iPhone CAMU. He is raising his physical hand. If you could raise your virtual hand, Mr. Anand, it would make it easier. Your virtual hand, please.
Oh, did we?
Yes,
okay,
he's now
there you
unmuted.
are. Okay.
Here we go. Okay. Hello, Ambassador Marks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So good to hear you.
Yeah, likewise.
Are you able to join on screen, or you're still not well?
I am on screen. I'm looking
you are
fabulous.
on screen.
I'm looking fabulous. No, I'm only kidding.
Okay, I'm glad to hear of your quick recovery.
Yeah,
Uh,
there we go.
please go ahead and put Mr. Hanan on screen.
Yeah, I'm on.
I thought we had mastered all of these things with our technology, but every
No,
now
no.
Oh, there
I'm
you
on.
are. There you are. Welcome,
Okay.
welcome. We're glad to have you here to join us and to share thoughts with us. Please, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Marks. Thank you for having me. We've had the pleasure of knowing each other now over 15 years. And you're someone I hold in the highest regard as both an entrepreneur as well as now a skilled politician. So
Diplomat.
yes, there you go. Diplomat. There you go. You seem to be getting younger with age, which is also something they're doing there well in Jamaica for you and Washington, DC. So I think there's a presentation that hopefully we're going to share with our audience. Yeah, is that possible?
Yes, for sure. Yes, go ahead.
Perfect. Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. So I'm joining you tonight from the Bahamas, and this presentation is much prettier than me. So with that, if you wouldn't mind flipping to the next slide. So if we could pull down one slide.
There we go.
There we go. Yep. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So this is a short presentation in terms of an overview of something we've been working on for a very long time. To be honest with you, been working on it too long, but that is rooted in two financial crises, a global pandemic, a few changes in government, and some of our responsibilities. So, I think Harmony Cove has been something that was started by a gentleman called Kingsley Thomas many years ago. As the idea was to diversify the Jamaican tourist economy away from the all-inclusive segment, where really Jamaica is, quite honestly, the world leader in creating fabulous, value for tourists. The idea behind Harmony Cove is to change that and to bring a different segment of the tourism business to life in the country. That was something that appealed to us greatly. We had a lot of experience investing in the Bahamas. We're investors in New York, in London, Atlanta, Orlando, South Florida, Boston. So we feel like we represent kind of the East Coast and kind of Western Europe segments incredibly well, which is an important market, obviously, for international visitors to Jamaica.
Look for David Mullins.
So with that, the first slide here just kind of gives you an overview of what we intend to do is to create really the next, or will be the largest, I think, resort destination in Jamaica, and it will be kind of in the top 3 within the Caribbean, kind of up there with Atlantis and Bahama, both of which are in the Bahamas. We will be investing over $1 billion in the first phase of Harmony Cove. And importantly for us, we are going to develop this, not only is this going to be state-of-the-art in every respect, but it's going to be what we would call ESG friendly. So ESG friendly basically means developing a project that has social responsibility, governance responsibility, and importantly, environmental responsibility. So that means in every aspect of both the design, construction, and then the ongoing operation of the project, we want to hit a certification that's known as LEED Gold. This would make it the largest project in the Western Hemisphere that would be ESG qualifying. So we're incredibly excited about that. It's something that's very important to us. For Jamaica, we just finished some important meetings last week with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, Minister of Tourism, Minister for Investment. The powers that be. This is something that is important to Jamaica as a nation, and hopefully we can help lead the way here with a first-class project built from the ground up to be done in a first-class fashion and an environmentally responsible way. The other thing that's important to us, we're all about aligning people's interests. Things work when you have the right capital structure, which we'll talk a little bit about in a moment. So that's how you finance a project like this. The second reason it works is you align everybody's interests correctly. So one of the things that's super important to us is that Jamaicans feel like Harmony Cove is theirs. And there's a couple of ways that that's going to manifest itself. The first one is we made a decision that we are going to, and by the way, I should state that this project is a joint venture between Nexus and the government of Jamaica, and it's actually through 2 subsidiaries of different entities that some of you have pension money in. So indirectly, the entire country is invested in Harmony Cove. However, we want to give individuals, both residing in Jamaica as well as outside of Jamaica, the opportunity to become directly a participant in the project. So we are going to issue an IPO. So that's an initial public offering of shares after we start the project within 1 year of groundbreaking. So we'll get the project going. We'll have all our money. All our money is in place to do this. However, we want people from Jamaica to be able to invest in the project. And the idea here is we want people to have exposure to what will be a first-class investment opportunity as well as a first-class investment. But the other thing is we want Jamaicans to feel like they can use Harmony Cove. So something that's going to happen is first of all, the investment is going to be targeted at individual investors, people that are on this phone call, for example, rather than large institutions. Because this is less about us needing money. It's more about us giving Jamaicans the opportunity to participate. And then what we're going to do is when you become a shareholder of Harmony Cove, each year, every shareholder who is Jamaican will be given some number of benefits to use Harmony Cove throughout the year. That is going to manifest itself in some kind of credit system that is usable to come and stay a couple of free nights a year, have some meals. The idea is to not only promote investment, but also to promote usage. And so emotionally, we connect together and build Harmony Cove together, but also financially. So it's something that we're excited about. It's something that was important to our partner, the Jamaican government, and something we're excited about. The other thing before we move on from this slide to just talk about is when we started in the Bahamas, the development of Albany, we made a very conscious decision that we were not going to be a typical employer whereby we try and hire people at the lowest possible price or medium price and kind of use the countries at that time, what the benchmarks were for employment in hospitality. And instead, what we did was we paid considerably higher wages. We implemented health insurance. We have scholarship programs for employees, kids to go to school. These are the kind of things that we want to do. And what we found by doing that was we have very little turnover. So while that costs more money, in the long term, we believe we win because we have a better quality of service. We have a lot lower turnover with our staff. And this is something we intend to do in Jamaica. Now, for those of you that have any insight into the wages in the hospitality sector in Jamaica, it's astonishingly low. And that will be because there's tips involved and stuff like that. But on the whole, it is an incredibly low benchmark. And it is something we think we can make a real statement in changing. And when we did it in the Bahamas, others followed. And I can say today there are several hospitality projects in the Bahamas that kind of have started to view employment the way we have, which is slightly longer term kind of sharing in the benefits of a successful project. So it's something we intend to do in Jamaica. And again, our job is really to lead. I think if Harmony Cove is successful, there'll end up being 3 or 4 Harmony Coves in the country. So our objective here is not to monopolize the country, but I think it is intended to lead. We'll lead not only in how we develop and build and operate the project, but how we employ people, how we invite Jamaicans to participate in the financial success of Harmony Cove, to participate in the usage of Harmony Cove, and something we're really excited about. So onto the next page, which you already have pulled up. This just gives you a brief background of what will the first phase of Harmony Cove be. It'll be a 25-story hotel tower with 1,000 first-class hotel rooms, full-service casino. This will have five-star restaurants, finest in the world. It'll have meeting space. We're going to have an 18-hole Tiger Woods golf course. We'll talk more about him in a moment and what his involvement in the project is. We are going to develop a music studio, again, with one of our other partners, it's Justin Timberlake. And we'll talk more about that as well. And then a series of pool and marine activities. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a brand we just launched called T Squared. And T Squared stands for Tiger Woods and Justin Timberlake. So it's a play on the T's in their name. We have a T Squared in the Bahamas, but we also have one in New York City. And we intend to open a flagship location embedded within Harmony Cove. And then there will be shops. People love to spend money on holiday, so that's an important aspect. This is the first phase of what will be a multi-billion-dollar investment. But this will be the creation of Harmony Cove, kind of the placemaking, as we like to call it. So moving to the next slide, this gives you a little bit of a background of kind of looking from the ocean side, kind of where the various amenities go. So you can kind of see here everything from on the right-hand side of the page, from basketball and tennis courts to meeting rooms to Families are very important to us in everything we do. So this has been designed to be very family friendly. I think that's an area Jamaica can do better in. I think it's known as a place to go have a wonderful holiday as adults. I'm not saying there aren't kid-friendly facilities there, but I think what we're going to do is invest significant sums of money in making sure kids feel like they're a part of this. And what that does is that broadens your market because you're now attracting families, not just adults. So Harmony Cove is going to be very family friendly. We do intend to have music festivals and things there, which we'll talk about. And you can kind of see as you move to the left-hand side of the page, you'll notice the casino, nightclub, and then what we are going to call the T-Squared Day Club, which will really be an adult pool. And that doesn't mean anything untowards going on there. It's just for 18 and older. So what you'll notice when you see the layout of this is that all the adult activities are centered on the left-hand side of the page, and all the family activities are centered on the right-hand side of the page. And so what we're not going to be doing is putting children in a position where they have to walk through a casino to enjoy the amenities and things. So this has been intentionally laid out this way so that families can very much feel like Harmony Cove is for them, and their children don't have to be exposed to adult activities unless their parents want them to. And the kind of the more adult-oriented stuff is going to take place on the left-hand side of the resort as kind of part of the first phase. So with that, let's move to the next page. So what someone might say, well, okay, that's great, excited, sounds exciting. Where is Harmony Cove? So Harmony Cove sits almost exactly between Montego Bay and Ocho Rios on the north coast in the parish of Trelawney. Falmouth is about 10 minutes away, the quite amazing port that's been built to handle the ginormous cruise ships that come in there. But we're excited about our location. We feel like it's in the tourist corridor. It's 2,300 acres of property, and we intend to use it in a way that will be really fabulous. And we should be able to attract people that are coming in by both plane from Montego Bay as well as by ship, both at Montego Bay, Falmouth, and Ocho Rios. So it's a premium location as far as we're concerned, and we're excited by that. If we move to the next page, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the pieces that are going to make up Harmony Cove. So you've already heard me mention the gentlemen Tiger Woods and Justin Timberlake. And you may say, what do they have to do with Nexus? Well, they're two of my primary shareholders. So the way that manifests itself is the first most obvious one is we've launched a brand called T-Squared, as I mentioned earlier. The T-Squared is a play on the T's in their name. You can see them there in the top right-hand corner, looking mighty happy. And then this is kind of an indoor execution of our concept. So it's really an entertainment concept. If you're ever in New York City, this is by Grand Central. It's really a fabulous place to go watch sporting events, host events. And then we have a lot of things to do, playing simulators, darts, bowling, etc. So our concept is to bring an indoor-outdoor version of T-Squared to Jamaica, so it will flow out into the adult pool as well. So it'll actually be a very, very unique T-Squared, but we're really excited for Justin and Tiger not only be obviously major shareholders in Harmony Cove, but to also bring this brand to life in Jamaica. If we move to the next slide, golf is obviously, with Tiger Woods being a partner in Nexus for the last almost 20 years, golf is obviously something that's important to us. Tiger is going to design the golf course at Harmony Cove. It's going to be spectacular. We think about 12 or 13 holes will have ocean views. And it is our intention to bring golf tournaments to Jamaica. So for those of you that are old enough, Jamaica used to host something called the Johnny Walker Classic years and years ago. And it was a really wonderful place. And it was a very successful tournament. You know, I think with some of the changes that took place in Jamaica from the 70s and 80s, it kind of fell off the radar as a place that people would want to host professional golf tournaments and also celebrity golf tournaments and things like that. We are intending to bring that back, and we will bring it back. And obviously having a partner like Tiger is incredibly helpful, and we're going to have an amazing golf experience here. So we're excited about that. Before we move on, I would like to say, you know, we talk a lot about what we're doing kind of to make this an attractive place. But one of the things that's always been important to us is to encourage local talent. And whether you realize it or not, even from the Bahamas, we have been encouraging Jamaican success in sports. So, for example, some of you may know several years ago, there was a football match arranged between Tottenham Hotspur and Jamaica, the national team. The game actually took place in the Bahamas. That was us that made that happen because one of our shareholders is involved with Tottenham Hotspur. So as an example, even from the Bahamas, we have encouraged sport. The other thing is at Albany in the Bahamas, we have a school, and that school has a sports academy. And I can tell you, some of your best and brightest junior golfers, both boys and girls, have been educated at our academy in the Bahamas and have gone on to do great things. And hopefully going forward, maybe those kids can actually do this academy from Jamaica instead of having to come to the Bahamas. So this is something that's important to us. We are going to continue to foster every aspect of the game, not just tourists, but also juniors, boys, girls, and the amateur game. Jamaica has a good national team, both men and women. We're going to support that. So if we move to the next slide, you can imagine with Justin Timberlake as one of our shareholders, we're excited about the possibility of doing some great things from the music standpoint in Jamaica. And once again, in the Bahamas, we created a state-of-the-art music studio. It's called The Sanctuary. You can see the photographs of it here on the page. And the biggest artists in the world have recorded here. Everyone from Cardi B to Drake to Alicia Keys, Justin Bieber, etc. One of the things that we've made a decision is that we're going to, with the incredibly rich history in music, and it was exciting to see the Bob Marley premiere last week, we've decided that we're going to open a music studio on the grounds of Harmony Cove to kind of pair up with the Sanctuary. The studio will be used more to encourage international artists as well as local artists to come and record in Jamaica and use Harmony Cove as their base to do so. So this is something we're excited about. And obviously with our shareholders, we're in a unique position to make this a reality. So really excited about that. And I know Justin is excited about creating music festivals and working with the local musicians to do some of these things. We move to the next slide. What I wanted to share with you was Nexus is not particularly well known. Some of the shareholders I've mentioned are. What are more well known are all the assets that Nexus and its partners control. And we have here a sampling of logos from Tottenham Hotspur Football Club to the Memphis Grizzlies, where one of our shareholders is an investor, to restaurants, to hotels, to resort communities, to clubs. We are probably one of the broadest investors in hospitality, principally in North America and in the UK, both of which are very important markets when we think about how we're going to generate excitement for people to come and visit us in Jamaica at Harmony Cove. Move to the next slide. These are just a couple of pages now, just pictures of things that we have, some of our assets. So you can kind of see page one, and if you flip forward to the second page, you'll see some more. We could bore you to tears with photographs of our assets all over the place, but this was just to give you a sampling of what we generally do. Is if we're going to get involved in something, it needs to be first class. And with that, I will end my remarks, Ambassador Mark. So thank you for letting me do this.
It's been such a pleasure hearing your description of all that will be happening to make Harmony Cove a reality. For me, it's a special pleasure to hear about Tiger Woods golf course. I don't get a chance to play much, but I remember one of our first conversations, I asked you, can you bring Tiger Woods to do a golf course in Jamaica, to design a golf course? And you said you would try. And then after that, you told me, I'm going to get it done. So I'm so happy to see that he's involved and you'll be designing a course in Jamaica, a golf course in Jamaica. I know online there's another lady, I just saw her cheering on, Dr. Lorna Simmons, who's the CEO at Harmonization from the government side. And so we are just excited to see what is happening. In your meeting last week with the Prime Minister and ministers, one of your investors said, 6 years ago, he might not have considered Jamaica as a good investment destination. But now he's very enthused because of all the work that we have been doing and the stabilization at the macroeconomic level. So sometimes, we are going through the process. It takes time, but it's always so rewarding when you hear investors coming in and say, we recognize what you're doing and we are willing now to do big investments on a level that Jamaica could not attract a couple of years ago. So I clearly, I'm so excited about this. I could keep speaking for a long time, but we have a number of persons here that want to ask a question or two. So we're going to go to a short question and answer period with you, Christopher, if you don't mind. So
Sure.
let us go to, I got a message from David Mullins very early saying, I want to speak. So I don't see him as yet, but let us go to Bingley Sangster. Just see you, Bingley, you came up. Oh, there's David here. David, go ahead.
Thank you, Eve. Thank you, Ambassador Marks. Good evening, and obviously thank you for the presentation. As a Jamaican who is investing in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean, I'm based in Orlando. I live in Windermere, very close to where Nexus's office is, and so
Okay.
I've been able to meet with the group there, with Mark Hayes in particular, and seen a pretty detailed book of what the plans were for Jamaica. So as someone I've been to, for those on the call, I've been to Albany, I've played at Isleworth, which they also are involved with. I've seen Lake Nona and the development and the transfer of roughly 10,000 acres here in Orlando into Lake Nona Medical City. I've been fortunate enough to also have been to the sanctuary, which is Justin Timberlake, and we need to recognize that this is going to be one of the only Tiger Woods designed golf courses in the entire world. And so Jamaica gets to be a brand. When you think of Lake Nona, Albany, and of course Isleworth, they actually have this cup. They have a tour. Used to have a tournament in Orlando. Tiger Woods would play and would represent Albany. I don't think he's going to represent Albany anymore because what they're building in Jamaica, I've been told, is going to be better than what we've seen.
I don't know if it's political
so
for you to say all of those things, but I get the feeling that you're excited and you're looking forward to see Harmony Cove in Jamaica.
Amazing and super excited. I'm looking forward to investing in it as well.
All right, thank you so much for your. And let me questions. Galaxy A303, your hand is up. Who is that? You want to see who that is? Galaxy A303, that hand was up. Can you unmute? Or you unmute? Gerald, right over there. Go ahead, Gerald.
Oh, thank you, Ambassador. I think it's, are you referring to me?
Yeah, that's what came up. I'm just seeing that.
I see. I didn't realize my name wasn't there. Thank you. Very briefly, I have to say I have been involved in large projects throughout the Caribbean, throughout Latin America for decades, and I have to say I have not seen transparency like this ever before. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but it's rare, and I think it's much appreciated. I've been reading the comments in the chat. I happen to know this project quite closely since its inception. I used to be the head of the Inter-American Development Bank for the Caribbean, and this project was one that was first put on the table when things weren't so good. Right now, we're looking at Jamaica, that after COVID, which pushed every country in the world back, the big differentiator between countries since COVID is who recovered fastest. And Jamaica is right at the front of that recovery. The macroeconomic situation in Jamaica has never been stronger. But more importantly, employment. Jamaica has created jobs faster than ever before. It has unemployment at a low that it's never ever been before. And so in terms of the context for this project, although it has been there for a while, this context could not be better. As the ambassador herself said, the key investors would not even have thought of Jamaica before now. So what was achieved by both parties, PNP and JLP, in terms of stabilizing the economy, this is the kind of dividend that it pays off. And just one quick thing for 1 quick minute. What was described, the desire and the central focus on linking the project to the local economy, entertainment, jobs, good jobs, supplying food, etc. That's exactly what several governments, one after the other, have been looking for, links to the local economy. The opportunity for individuals with small amounts of money to participate in buying the shares. That's something we first saw with Wigton, and I don't know how many people looked at that. The Wigton wind farm, when the government privatized that, this is one of the things that people have been talking about, the huge benefit to small investors of having a piece of the pie, having a seat at the table. The comment was made about bringing jobs, and it's not just jobs, it's good jobs, not just getting tips, but having skills that you're paid for. I think some people have described this way of doing things as democratic capitalism. Who knows? The last thing I'll say is that the focus on families, on everybody being able to walk through the door, everybody being able to participate in this very, very beautiful project. Maybe the word all-inclusive has a new meaning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gerald. And I will go to the next person. Is that there are two, there's Galaxy AO3, are they on mute? And there's Bingley Sangster. You can go ahead with Galaxy AO3. And Bingley Sangster is on mute.
I'm here,
Go
ma'am.
ahead. We'll only do a couple, two more, three more questions, and then we will wrap up this segment. So go ahead, please.
All right, Ambassador, good evening. And thank you again, Chris, for your presentation. I don't know if you remember, you and I met at Nexus, and we had the pleasure of discussing this project. You said something about the, how workers are going to get treated, and the scale of pay that these workers would get, and how raising the bar in Jamaica. Because anybody see a project like this, the number one concern is how are you going to, where's the workforce going to come from? But for those of us who have been to Breckenridge or St. Simons or Aspen, we see that Jamaicans leave to go and find jobs in hospitality spaces because they're seeking, better wages. And we know that the absence of some of these people in the homes creates a breakdown in, in family.
You're breaking up. So am I unmuted? You're breaking up. So we are going to. I think we got the what you're saying, that you're happy to see this project happening in Jamaica, and we thank you for your input. I just want to get two more persons quickly in. LTD Winsome, just unmute those persons at the top with their hands up so that we can get a few more persons. Just to, if there are any questions. I know there was a question on the environment. I don't know if it was answered by the lead certification. Dr. Clovis Nelson, he's next, and unmute. And then Taminian Young, and go ahead, Dr. Nelson.
Guys, can you all hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Ambassador, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
I'm just very happy that this is going down. And sir, thank you very much on behalf of Jamaica. I'm not leaving this up to the ambassador alone to tell you thanks. I'm going to say thanks also. But I am here tonight. I think I will take the initiative to represent the visual arts family in Jamaica. I am glad to see music coming on stream in all its best glories. But as a sculptor, an art educator myself, and former associate of the Edna Manley College, I am asking you, please, sir, however possible, to try and consider the establishment of a visual arts gallery space for both international and local art exhibition and visual art festivals. If that is any at all possible, we would love to see that. And I end my position right there. Thank you, sir.
Thank
If
you.
I could respond to that.
Go ahead, Chris.
So, one thing I didn't talk about, in the Bahamas, we have over 1,500 employees, and we have about a 98% Bahamian workforce. And it's been like that since day one. In other words, we're going to build our Bahamian project with Bahamians. When we talk about Harmony Cove, that's exactly how we're going to do this. So I think Birdley was going there and he got cut off. But where are the jobs going to come from? Well, a few years ago, it would have come off the unemployment line. Today, thankfully, there's a much shorter unemployment line. So our job's going to be to go and recruit kind of the best and the brightest. But also what we found when we opened Albany was some people were scared to leave what was considered a safe job to come over. We ended up hiring a lot of people out of university, like younger people. So I think that's great. The other thing is, I'll tell you, some of our superstars in our hospitality assets outside of Jamaica are Jamaican, and some of them, again, where Birdley was going, was actually, some of them might have not left their families and stuff. They would have stayed in Jamaica had the opportunities been there. So when you start talking about having very few foreigners running Harmony Cove, that means the best jobs are going to be taken by Jamaicans. That means the best wages. People are going to earn six-figure salaries, right? So the leaders of Harmony Cove are going to make a lot of money, and that's going to be great. Now, to answer the other question about the visual arts, in the Bahamas, we celebrate Bahamian artists. We have art, both international and local, displayed regularly. Nothing would give us more pleasure than to do that. And you didn't need to ask that. That will be done. But the fact that you've asked, I can tell you it will happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sure Dr. Nelson, you're pleased to hear that. And we'll go just two more, if you don't mind, Mr. Anand, just two more questions. Miss Young, please go ahead.
Hi, good night, everyone. I'm a virgin to the diaspora, so I'm super excited about this opportunity. So thank you. And there are two things that kind of tie in together. I'm excited about this ecosystem, is how I feel, and this 360 approach to how you created this. Because also my life has been intertwined in entertainment, marketing from a telecom side, and development side. So I'm particularly interested in understanding kind of the base on which you build out your ESG. What are the current, the areas that you're focusing on? And also, I believe in businesses leaving the communities better than they came in. And one of the things that I've been advocating for, and if somebody would just give me some money to do this, is Glistening Waters in Trelawney, being one of 4 luminous lagoons and being the brightest. And you do have one in Bahamas. There's such an opportunity. I don't know what the government plans are or anything, but there is just so much excitement about the possibility for what Glistening Waters can become. What is that true community approach to your build out? And again, more importantly, that ESG social impact side, which I'm also super interested in. If you can help me understand where you are going with that, I'd be super, 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 super excited to get that information. Thank you all. And I'll be logging on. This is beautiful. And hi, everyone. I'm new to the diaspora. Please want to help me. I'm in New York. Have a good evening.
Welcome, welcome. Chris, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so when you talk about ESG, I think there's a number of things, right? So the first is employing Jamaicans, and all the things we've talked about. So it's doing things right, long-term, investing in, it's a shortcut to bring in a whole bunch of expats. It's a false economy, because those people are joining you because they want to move on to another job in 2 years. At Albany, we have less than 2% turnover in the year. That is like unheard of in the hospitality industry. The reason why that happens is because there aren't millions of jobs in the Bahamas for people to go to. Well, that's going to be the same thing in Jamaica. We're going to build up our community with Jamaicans. They're going to grow together with us. They're going to be trained. They're going to be exposed to things also around the world, and then they're going to come back so they'll work in some of our other assets, and then they'll come back. So I think that's the first thing, and that then creates that kind of that bond that's really long term, which is super important for our customers. Okay, so people don't like turnover. What we want are people that are there year in and year out, and they start to become familiar with guests that repeat. That's kind of a very important thing. with that also come benefits package, whether that's health insurance, whether that's helping kids get employment, whether that's stimulating sports, investment for juniors, women, men, etc. We've talked about music and stuff. So I think that's one aspect of it. The second, kind of being slightly more bricks and mortar about it, is how we actually design and build Harmony Cove. So one of the things, that it's expensive and people haven't done it in Jamaica because the technology's come a long way. The cost is a real issue. One of the things is we should be charging higher room rates than an all-inclusive. Well, therefore, we should be delivering a different product. So what do I mean by that? Well, how you build an air conditioning system. So I'm afraid I've been to a number of hotels in Jamaica where they're wall units, right? So basically each hotel room literally has its own unit that kind of vents the room, and you have a card that goes into the door when you open it. And when you leave the room, the air conditioning shuts off. Now, this is what creates mold. Okay. Now, this isn't a criticism. It's just old technology. What Harmony Cove is going to have is it's going to have centralized air conditioning, right? We don't need heating too much in Jamaica, thankfully. So it's generally an air conditioning issue, but you have modern thermostats that we can control from an iPad or a telephone. And we can just raise the temperature when they're out of occupancy. They can be set in a way where you manage all this remotely, and that way you keep a consistent temperature in the hotel, so you don't have things like mold developing and stuff like that, and you're much more efficient in how you use energy. That's a good example of kind of both a decision that's expensive in the build out, but it also helps preserve and protect the integrity of the asset after it starts operating, but then also doing it in an environmentally conscious way. Another example will be how we landscape. So you've got to use, plants that are native to Jamaica. You want to really try to use plants that use as little water as possible, because, overwatering, there's chemicals involved. You've got to make the water, et cetera, et cetera. So being judicious with how you use water. Same as how you run the golf course. So, we'll be looking to minimize the amount of fertilized area for the golf course. So there's all kinds of examples of it. The recyclable materials that one uses. One of the things, again, in the Bahamas we're slightly spoilt with is we're so close to America that we all get pretty lazy and we import everything, from chickens to fish to to fruit. A lot of this stuff is brought in because it's just so close to the States. Jamaica is not so close to the States. And so what's really exciting is we're going to be able to help build those farmers, become a big customer of theirs. We're probably going to push them to raise their quality because we need to make sure we have first-class produce. But it's all doable in Jamaica. So super excited. I think I could go on and on and on, but I think Ambassador Marks might shut me off. So these are just some examples of it. We could keep going.
Okay. I know I told you about 30, 35 minutes. I just have three more hands. That I know we have more, but I can only do 3 more questions or persons, so we don't keep it too long. But I was just wondering, can you recognize the persons from the media? Thanks for, I noticed that quite a few of our media friends are here. If any persons from the media raise their hands, you can let me know so I can recognize them. In the meanwhile, Daphne, hand up. Your hand is, yeah, let me recognize Daphne. Go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you, but we're not seeing you.
Oh, no, I don't have video. I'm not looking pretty right now, so I'll just stay like this.
Okay, go ahead, please.
All right, so here's my question. So I've been very excited about this project for a very long time, and I'm not by myself in that excitement. So when I heard about this, I was really excited to spread the news. There's going to be a town hall. Unfortunately, when I started to spread the word, the reactions were skeptical at best from some persons, because some were mentioning that we were supposed to have broken ground in 2005. So
I'm not sure where that came from, though, Daphne. 2005, we're just starting the conversation. So are you interested in knowing when the ground is going to be? Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. Yes. So what I do know from the government side is that there was a meeting last week where the government gave a commitment that they will, from the things that needs to be done on the government side, they are pushing for groundbreaking this year. And I know that there are a number of steps that are, I think the Minister of Finance said it's now in the 100 meters time frame. So we're expecting that within another maximum 60 days, we should be able to have a definite date. But that's what I understand from listening to the Prime Minister and the ministers of government speak a week ago. Christopher, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think it's very important to understand there's a sequencing to how this works. The government have some things they've committed to doing, which are very important. Most importantly is we have restarted, kind of both sides have agreed to restart the design work that will allow us, if the other pieces are done by the government as they've outlined, we should be able to break ground this year. So we're excited. If everyone does what they need to do, let's get going, because I share, Daphne, I share your feelings and sentiment, and but I will tell you, this is different. This is different, and we're excited to get going. We just need to finish these last couple of things, which everyone's committed to doing.
Unmute them. Okay, thank you so much. LTG Winsome, and Carlene Thompson, is that someone from the media? No? All right, just those two, and then we call it a night. Go ahead.
Good evening, all. And like everyone has expressed, it's pretty exciting. And I also think the location is also pretty ideal, as that area has really been expanding in terms of residency, both from the diaspora coming back home. So it's welcoming. Most of my questions that I had to has been answered already, but one, I'm not sure if you touched on the environment, and I was also going to be asking in terms of what's the projected time line that you'll be looking at for this project to be underway, and projected completion given all in order. Secondly, in terms of having shareholders, when would you be going to market that one could buy into the project?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the answer to the question is next year should be, if both sides do what we need to do, and the ball's a little bit now in the government's court, which they've committed to, and let's get that done in the next 60 days. We then have to do our thing, which is complete, just delivering all the money and finishing up some design work. We break ground this year. The investment opportunity would be next year, probably September, October timeframe, like after the summer of 2025. And again, I want to reiterate this. This is not about us needing money. This was a decision the government and us came to, where we want to provide an opportunity for Jamaicans to invest in Harmony Cove. What's more exciting to me than the investment is actually the emotional attachment to the project, because as an investor, we're going to give credits to those shareholders each year to use in the resort, which means people are really going to use it, and that's a win-win.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we go to the last person, Ms. Taylor, is there any question from Facebook? I know sometimes there are complaints that we leave out the social media side. Did you have a question that you wanted to repeat?
No questions, Ambassador, just a comment from Slomo, who is another investor saying just how much he loves Jamaica and what he's hearing.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Let me go to the last person. Is it Miss Graham? Probing? Just unmute the other person so they can ask. We have to wrap up with Mr. Annan. Please go ahead, Mr. Reed. Go ahead.
Oh, yes, Ambassador, thank you very much. And Mr. Annan, thank you for the presentation. Now, my pet peeve in anything has to do with education. So I'll make a tongue-in-cheek comment. You know how folks talk about all these lazy, workless, good-for-nothing Jamaicans. But the same workless, good-for-nothing Jamaicans, you train them and everybody speaks about them. So my question for Mr. Anand, is there a plan to have a corporate university that continuously trains the workers with no consideration or concern if they go somewhere else? And I know we don't talk about the competition, but I think Sandals University is an excellent example. The same Jamaicans that people complain about, when I send my neighbors and my friends to Jamaica, they come back raving not about corporate standards, but the workers there and how wonderful the workers are. So I would like to hear Mr. Anand address that, not in a just hand waving, but specific plans that they have put in place that will be integral to the development. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Reid.
Okay, great question. So one thing you're going to learn about me is I don't lie to people. Okay, so let me tell you this single most important asset of Harmony Cove, it's going to be its employees and its people. And I've already told you the only way we're going to do this is with Jamaicans. And that's been true. If we were in New York, we're going to do it with New Yorkers. We're in Toronto, we're going to do it with Canadians. In Jamaica, we're going to do it with Jamaicans. So we are absolutely committed to developing every employee at Harmony Cove. I cannot lie to you and say that today we're sitting here and going to build a university for people to train people in the hospitality space to then go elsewhere. The reality is, though, we're going to build a big team of people. And if we're not treating them right, they're going to leave anyway. So we'll have trained them to then go off to other places, but that is not our intention. Our intention is to build our own team of people and train them to the first class standards, and hopefully they'll never leave because we take great care of them.
Thank you. Just the last question now from Probin. Is Probin there? And Galaxy has been unmuted for a while. I don't know who that is, but they did not speak. So just Probin, and then we wrap up.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador. This is really a wonderful and great project. It has a lot of promises, and I'm personally wishing it all the success that should attend such a great project. My question is with regards to the social objective of the program of quality employment and all of that good stuff, the returns to investor. Is any of this enshrined in the charter of the organization? So it's not just in promise, but it's also written in the bylaws charter of the entity.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you for your question. You're trying to see how we can have some guarantees that the wonderful things you're hearing will happen. Over to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have not written those into our bylaws. That is probably not the way it will work, but I'm absolutely very happy to work the details of that out and commit to them more than verbally. So our track record is, I think it was David Mullings came on, based in Orlando. I think our track record speaks for itself when it comes to this stuff. We're not in something to get rich quick and flip out of there and lie to everybody. Remember, the people that are my shareholders, they're held accountable whether we like it or not. So we don't make empty promises, because there's a real repercussion to them if we say things and don't do them. So, someone just flashed up here. I saw in the chat, we're going to hold you to your word, Mr. Nan. You do that. You do that.
And I think just the last thing, Christopher, if you could share, you had mentioned like the numbers that of persons that some of your investors will influence to see Jamaica as an attractive destination. I thought you said it's over 100, over 1 million for, is it Justin Timberlake? I can't remember the numbers, but they're very impressive.
Oh yeah, so Justin, I think across all of his platforms has well over 100 million social media followers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is something we're all excited about, and as we get closer to the opening, that's the time to kind of use the power of that. And they'll absolutely, they do not support anything they're not proud of, even if they were an investor in it. And so that's our standard. It needs to be something we're all incredibly proud of. And if we do that, they'll be our biggest cheerleaders, and they'll use their platforms to help us. And that's how we've done it for 20 years as a partnership, and that's how it's going to continue.
We thank you for coming on. Thank you for your transparency and for taking the time. I know that you weren't so well this week, and you made the time to be here to share with us and to answer all questions. I'll just leave you to say any last word that you want, and to say again, we appreciate this time with you.
Yeah, no, I want to thank you, Ambassador Marks, on many levels, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight, but also for our history goes way back. This project, our involvement in this project has a lot to do with you, and you and I know what that means, and I'm very grateful. I couldn't be more excited. I want the government to do what they've said they're going to do, and I'm going to do what we say we're going to do, and let's get this thing going.
We look forward. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Okay. So that we have now closed the first segment of this what do we call it? Event, town hall, virtual town hall, and now we go to our featured speaker, Minister Terrelonge. So I will ask you, Ms. Taylor, if you could just introduce Minister Terrelonge, because even though he has been speaking a bit and is now the minister in charge of our diaspora affairs, and is still relatively new to that position. So please go ahead and introduce Minister Terrelonge.
The Honorable Alando Terrelonge, Member of Parliament since 2016, was appointed State Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade in May 2023. Prior to this, he served as Minister of State in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport. Minister Terrelonge also served as the Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth, and Information. A lawyer by profession, Minister Terrelonge is passionate about politics and education. His combination of skills puts him in good stead to handle the ever-evolving portfolio of diaspora affairs.
Minister Terrelonge, welcome to Let's Connect. We have some very enthusiastic diaspora members here to hear from you and to interact with you. And so we look forward. Please go ahead. We're not hearing you. We're not. Hearing you very well. You're muffled. You're muffled. Do you want a few minutes to just check out and see what's happening, Minister? To get
Can you
oh
hear
yes,
me now?
no, oh yes, we are hearing you now. Yes.
Right, let me say a big thanks to the tech team. Yes, yeah, they just have to clear something in the mic portal. But Ambassador, good evening to you. I must say it really, really is a pleasure to be joining you on this your program here. I must also say good evening to your team at the embassy. No doubt they continue to give you tremendous support. To members of the diaspora, including members of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council and the Global Jamaica Diaspora Youth Council, members within the US and out of the US. I know your program has significant diaspora reach. Members of civil society, academia, the private sector, Friends of Jamaica. And again, I know your program has media personnel as well. So members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you all. Again, Ambassador, thank you for having invited me to join you on Let's Connect program. I mean, certainly this provides a vital bridge in terms of fostering connections among Jamaicans in the US and beyond. Certainly from listening to your program, several of your programs, your program not only facilitates dialogue, but it also plays a crucial role in disseminating essential updates and information on matters of national and resonant interest to our cherished diaspora. So I certainly appreciate the position that you have taken as an ambassador to engage the diaspora, with home base here in Jamaica in terms of meaningful discussions that certainly strengthen the bonds and unite us all across the varying borders. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Mr. Christopher Anand, the CEO of the Nexus Luxury Collection. And, Ambassador, again, a big thank you to you and the team for the work that you have done in securing this partnership with Mr. Anand that will contribute significantly to Jamaica's continued economic growth and job creation process. So, Mr. Anand, again, thank you for your interest. It will certainly be a game changer in our tourist sector. As you would have indicated, it anticipates to create over 4,000 jobs with a projected investment of US $1 billion. Ambassador, certainly, I believe this is one of the biggest investments as well, within that Trelawney tourism sector. So again, our gratitude. Again, you certainly have a diverse audience, including Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica who have also participated in your programs over the few years, etc. So I want to thank them as well for their active contribution. As a government, we remain certainly committed to deepening diaspora engagement. And I want to thank the diaspora for all they have done, in terms of the contribution by virtue of their wealth of knowledge, skills, expertise, and resources that reside within Jamaica. So a big thank you to you all. As a government, certainly our vision extends beyond the borders, as evidenced by an all-encompassing, family-oriented national diaspora policy that we have. We see the Jamaican diaspora members as ambassadors of our culture. They've certainly been resilient and the very embodiment of innovation and creativity. And so we look forward to working with the diaspora members. Already we have had 4 successive conferences which were very successful. These are the Jamaica Regional Diaspora Conferences that were held in the UK, in Canada, in Africa. And of course, for the first time, we had a conference in Paris, where we took into consideration the Jamaican diaspora living in Western Europe. So certainly those were well staged. And we do have a diaspora conference coming up for the United States. This is being looked at for April 2024. And again, it would give an opportunity for members of the diaspora to interface, not just, for example, on a Zoom or a radio program, but certainly a direct physical interface. We're looking at 5 states in the US for that direct engagement as well. But then there is I have to mention the 10th Biennial Jamaica Conference, Ambassador, which is scheduled for Montego Bay. That's going to be the 16th to the 19th of June. In Jamaica here, Montego Bay. So I'm looking forward to seeing all members from across the US and the extended diaspora coming back to Jamaica, where we can have that sort of physical interface. Of course, our Prime Minister will be there, Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith, other leaders of government and the private sector, business interests, they'll also be there. So, Ambassador, one of the things I'm excited about the conference for is because we do understand and appreciate that there are certain issues and there are certain concerns that the diaspora has, issues relating to crime, corruption, violence, generally, etc. And so the diaspora conference will give us an opportunity to look at these things. The primary mission of the Prime Minister, as we look at the new agenda for 2024 and beyond, is more. And we're speaking about peace and productivity as we move ahead to nation building. So the diaspora conference coming up in June, the key focus, again, peace, which would include security and citizen safety as well, production, which of course, is wealth creation, employment. So these are some of the topics that we'll be looking at. So again, we do appreciate that there are concerns, and as a family, we can get together in interviews such as this, in programs such as the ones that you host, Ambassador, but also in person by having a diaspora conference where we can interface, as I indicated, with the Prime Minister and heads of government. And of course, I avail myself to the questions that you might have, and also to the questions that our audience or guests might also have, etc., as we look towards building that greater synergy, that greater partnership, and which ultimately leads to the empowerment of Jamaicans at home and Jamaicans in the diaspora.
Thank you for that very succinct overview. I think you have left most of the time to just hear from the audience and to answer questions. And we have members of the diaspora online here on the Zoom, and we also have joining on Facebook and on YouTube. And so since you're here, Minister of the Diaspora, I just want to recognize some other persons, some other diaspora leaders that are online. Miss Renee Miller, Miss Vanessa Mary, Mr. Kevin Cunningham, Mr. Andrew Sharp, Miss Claudette Powell. I'm not calling out all your organizations. Miss Marie Kellier, Mrs. Denise McCullough Cleary, Miss Janice Wisdom, Dr. Ryan Wigan, Mr. Peter McKenzie, Mr. Patrick Williams. These are leaders now from the Midwest. And from the Southern, we have Reverend Horace Ward, Dr. Oliver Fallon Reed, Mr. Ashley Moncrief, Mr. Jamal Hall, Miss Tara Elizabeth, Miss Elizabeth, Miss Judith Drummond, Mr. Jason Walker, Dr. Nicole Bent Jones. And from the Northeast, we have Dr. Elizabeth McKenzie, Mr. Donovan West, Miss Violet Taylor, Mr. Clive Williams, Reverend Steve Robinson, Mr. Rowan Barrett. And I know persons have been reaching out to the embassy over the past 2 weeks. They're really expressing concern that they're here, they're in diaspora organizations, they're working hard, they're giving back, and they have a concern that, persons are calling themselves diaspora leaders and they're not sure on which basis. So they wanted to be here tonight to just speak about the importance of being real diaspora leaders and to speak about the work that they are doing, some of them, while asking their questions. So I will go straight to the question and answer. And if you could put up back the gallery, let me see. And we'll start with we have Miss Dr. Nelson, you're back on. But that was a good question that you did in the first segment. So I will acknowledge you. Please unmute. And Mr. Paul McFarlane, go ahead, please, with those two. And we have, not sure who is W Green, but go ahead, continue. Go ahead, Dr. Nelson.
There we go. Greetings again, Ambassador.
Yes.
And Minister T, good to see you. All right, so my question for you, Minister, is simply this. A few days ago, we had a very unsettling situation in Miami, a protest at the Consul General's office, and I made a little talk at that time, and I see the McQuick Talk logo is up there with a raised hand, and my question is simply this: how do you handle diaspora organizations that put up some kind of a combative, I want to call it combative, confrontational display against the Jamaican government? What are the measures in place to address this kind of issue, and how do we, deal with this going forward?
Dr. Nelson, thank you for that question. Well, certainly, again, as I indicated in my opening remarks, as a government, we do understand that there are going to be divergent views. And as a democracy, we respect the right of persons to peaceful protest. As a government, we would never seek to hinder or restrict anyone from airing their views. So we monitored the situation in Miami. We were working with our CG, Oliver Mayer. And from 7 a.m. until about 3:30 p.m., we were kept abreast as to what was happening. Certainly what I saw was about maybe 40 persons or less than 40 persons, who expressed certain views. Some expressed the view that, they believe that there's a great issue of crime and corruption in Jamaica. And there were others within the mix who indicated that, crime and corruption is not unique to Jamaica. In fact, there was one gentleman who gave an interview and he said, certainly as a diaspora, have we considered how we could petition our councilmen, our congressmen, our senators, etc.?
That may be Dr. Nelson.
I wasn't going to say that it was him, but yes, I recognize that it was him who did the interview. And for disclosure, I did not know Dr. Nelson before. This is my first time seeing him outside of seeing him on the interview, for disclosure. But certainly, who pointed out, that Jamaica does not manufacture guns. Jamaica does not manufacture ammunition. So certainly, how do we petition our congressman for more, for stricter laws in terms of the United States and shipping to Jamaica, so that we don't have members in the diaspora who are sending things in the barrel or sending it in the car parts and so forth. So again, those are the views of persons of the diaspora. There are also members of the diaspora who indicated that they don't know which organization this is. They don't know the members of the organization. They don't know the number of persons within this organization. But as a government, we have a responsibility to listen to all the concerns and all the views that are expressed. Again, as I indicated, we are a democracy and we respect the right of persons to peaceful protest. Certainly, the vast majority of Jamaicans of the diaspora have indicated that they view very favorably the work that the government has done, certainly over the last 8 years. I mean, if we look at inflation figures, if you go to I suppose we could look at inflation. Let's take a year such as 1990, for example. Inflation in 1990 was, if I remember correctly, was 21.96%. That was inflation in 1990. In 2010, inflation had come down somewhat. It was at 12.61%. And today, if we look at the figures coming out of 2023, for the first time in close to, let's say, 40 years, if you look at the figures 1990 and before, inflation is now at an unprecedented 6.3% as of November 2023. So there are Jamaicans who are saying when we left Jamaica in the 1990s and 1980s, inflation was double digit. Inflation is now single digit, as I indicated. If you look at unemployment at a glance, when you look at, for example, in the 1990s, again, unemployment was under 10%, but now we have unemployment, the lowest it has been, at 4.5%. So again, there are persons in the diaspora and across the world who are saying, but Jamaica's economy continues to grow and there is now more jobs being created. In fact, even you look at the figures for minimum wage, minimum wage over the last 8 years has been slashed by some 50%. So minimum wage, again, if you look at the minimum wage, the back in 10 years ago, you were looking at about a minimum wage of some $6,000 thereabouts. Today, minimum wage is approximately $13,000. So when we look at minimum wage, as I indicated, between 2016 and now, there has been a 100% improvement, not even 50%, sorry, a 100% improvement in minimum wage. And going back to debt to GDP ratio, again, there are Jamaicans who are so impressed with the level of growth and development in Jamaica. Debt to GDP ratio, again, if you look at the figures coming from 1990, debt to GDP ratio was 138%, almost 140%. When you look at debt to GDP ratio in when we took over government in 2016, again, debt to GDP ratio was 123%. Today, having regard to the macroeconomic policies that have been put in place, having regard to the resilience of our economy by shrewd economic principles that we have put in place and the responsible fiscal responsibility and the programs, the debt to GDP ratio is now at approximately 78%. So much so, Madam Ambassador, and to all our members in the diaspora, that the Miami Herald indicated last year that when one considers Jamaica's growth over the last few years, that Jamaica could easily be considered a mini superpower within the region. And these are factors that diasporans and Jamaicans at home are very proud. The Financial Times, just last week, the Financial Times issued a gold star report on Jamaica's economic prowess, again, over the last few years. And the Financial Times said that Jamaica is perhaps the best pupil within the IMF framework. They indicated that Jamaica should receive a gold star. When they looked at how resilient the economy has been, they indicated that for the first time since independence, Jamaica can receive a glowing assessment on the basis of our different multilateral obligations that we continue to fulfill. Ambassador, I know you're in the US, but the Financial Times also indicated that perhaps Jamaica's economic technocrats could perhaps, go to the US, etc., and do a crash course for US legislators and economists as it relates to that sort of resilience, how to get the economy growing, how to reduce debt and so forth. So those are all factors that the Financial Times out of the UK, one of the most respectable financial journals indicate about the growth and prosperity and the future prospects for Jamaica's economy. So again, so how do we push back against the negativity and the propaganda? Because
Right.
Ambassador, the truth is, I also observed that there was a politician who was there who gave a speech at this rally that that Dr. Nelson spoke about, etc. So again, one has to consider, are there personal reasons for things such as this? Are there political reasons for things such as this? But again, as a democracy, it is up to you, the members of the diaspora, to push against the negativity and to hail the success of the government, etc., whilst also making recommendations for things that do need improving. And so we continue to monitor it. Again, what we do is we engage the diaspora. Over the last 2 weeks, I have been on programs across New York, Connecticut, well, the entire tri-state area. I have been on programs across South Florida, etc. We're scheduling programs for London and Canada just to let the voice of the government be heard, etc. And of course, we're doing this amazing discussion. We're connected across the US again in a more fulsome way with Ambassador Marks and you all, so we can get the message out, we can answer your questions. This is your interface with government, and of course the government interface with you, the diaspora, so we can discuss ideas as a family as we chart the course forward. But certainly the rest of the world, including the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations, we had the United Nations Secretary General was here last year, the president of the World Bank, IMF top executives, etc. Just last week, Jamaica hosted one of the most powerful politicians in China, the foreign minister himself, Ambassador, His Excellency Foreign Minister Wang Yi was here on an 8th country world tour, and Jamaica was included. We've had the Deputy Foreign Minister from Japan who was here last year, from South Korea as well. We've had the Arabians who've come here. We've had the Foreign Secretary from the United Kingdom. I mean, again, we've had senior officials from the United States as well. Our Prime Minister has been meeting with world leaders. So even in terms of imaging, Jamaica's global image as a serious player in terms of economic resilience, in terms of human rights, in terms of peace, prosperity, peace and production. Jamaica's economic model is now being studied, and Jamaica continues to be hailed by members, our colleagues, at the very pantheon of economic success and prosperity. So it's something that we should be proud of as we continue to protect our global reputation, our global image that is now a part of Brand Jamaica. So Ambassador, Brand Jamaica has moved beyond the IMF, the Financial Times also indicated in 2012, Jamaica was on the brink of economic and financial ruin, destruction. These are the words of Financial Times. And in 12 years, in 10 years, we have turned that around to Jamaica now being the poster child of trade, investment, resilience, growth, productivity, prosperity, which is hailed by our colleagues across the world, including major multilateral financial organizations.
Thank you, Minister. I hear the passion in your voice. I think what is clear from just listening to everyone is we are, as a government, doing many things right on the macroeconomic level. And we are doing things right in a way that is, the world is sitting up and noticing. However, there are some concerns on the local level that we can do better with impact for the man on the ground. We can do better with crime. And so I think what is very important is for persons to realize none of these problems are new. They have been built up over the last 40 years. Our productivity has been going down, crime increasing, and it cannot overstate the importance of having a strong, steady economic base, because that will give the revenues to start a socio-economic intervention and start changing the trajectory that Jamaica has been on for a long time. So I think more than anything else, we just need to urge our population to have patience. And then importantly, what you are doing, Minister, explaining the vision and explaining what is happening. So I appreciate your passion and all that you have shared. We'll now ask Mr. Paul McFarlane to speak. And then Dr. Claire Nelson, is that you? Yes. Okay, go ahead. Is there any relationship, by the way, I don't want to seem as if the Nelsons are monopolizing the show. Any relation to Mr. Dr. Clovis Nelson? Anyway, I'll come to you. Mr. McFarlane, go ahead. No? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. It's great being here.
Mhm.
Thank you, Minister Terrelonge, for showing up. Listen, you've done your homework. You were very fluent. I'm impressed. Where have you been hiding? Well, you are here now, and you're gonna be receiving an anointing for leadership from us, at least from me. Anyway, I have a question for you, and I would appreciate a kind of short response, because then I have a follow-up. I'm going to try to answer my own questions after you answer it. From your point of view, give me a list of a couple tools, of a couple strategies that citizens of a country can use to get a government to take action, or to change course, or to adopt something they want the government to adopt. What are a couple of the effective tools that are available to the citizens of any country?
Good day, Paul McFarlane. And again, you've been most kind and gracious with your words, and I do appreciate it. I remain a humble servant of the people. It truly is an honor to serve. Well, certainly, as a member of Parliament as well, you know, one of the key tool is for citizens to have that interface with their members of Parliament. So as members of Parliament, we speak for the people. We represent their needs and interests. We represent their ideas. We represent the very vision of the people within the Houses of Parliament, which, as you know, is the primary house of legislature within any country. And so the best tool for persons is having that dialogue with their members of Parliament. You can write to your member of Parliament. You can go to the member of Parliament's office. You can also write to the Houses of Parliament, because they also have, let's say, a secretariat that you can write to as well. In fact, today is Thursday. Thursday is my constituency day. So I literally just left Portmore and drove to the ministry, coming across, you know, the nice highways, etc., to be here to join, to connect with you all. And on a Thursday, again, I meet with my constituents. We discuss ideas. We also do our community walks during the weekend to hear their views, and I represent their interest in Parliament. So, for example, the Prime Minister would have announced in Parliament on Tuesday that there is a massive road rehabilitation program coming for Jamaica. It's called the Spark program. And for members in the diaspora who have not yet heard of this, the Spark program is a $40 billion road rehabilitation program. And this is, I mean, it is so monumental. And I want members across the diaspora to realize that all of this is Jamaican money. We're not borrowing from the French. We're not borrowing from the Chinese. We're not borrowing from the British or the Canadians. This is Jamaica's money, because as the economy grows, there is greater surplus. It is that surplus that we have used to increase the payments across the private sector. It is that surplus that we continue to use to build more hospitals and invest in our education, invest in our police stations, invest in crime fighting measures, etc., like buying the ships and more speedboats, putting cameras across Jamaica to help in better securing our country. So $40 billion. Each member of Parliament is going to be responsible for overseeing, or the members of Parliament don't get the money directly in their pockets, responsible for overseeing $150 million. So my constituents in Portmore, I will be hosting regular community consultations with them to get their recommendations as to which roads across Portmore, which is East Central St. Catherine that I have the honor and privilege of representing, which roads they believe should benefit from the $150 million. So if we look at an average spend of, let's say, $15 million per road, we could easily fix 10 roads across East Central, but I would want the communities to give me their feedback. So again, as representatives of the people have that as a primary tool or primary strategy to ensure that their views, their issues and concerns get to where it needs to, which is ultimately the Houses of Parliament and the seat of government, to effect meaningful change, which also segues into the point that it makes a difference who represents the people, and that this right here is not just your index finger for you to hold up when you're speaking. This right here, yes, is the very definition of democracy. When you make that X and you put your finger in that ink to vote for the government and the leaders who can truly take your country from poverty to prosperity. The leaders of a country who believe in peace and production. The leaders of a country who believe in fiscal management, prudent economic policies that is going to see national growth that ultimately will trickle down into the pockets of all Jamaicans, because there's so much growth here. And when I say it is the perfect time for members to be investing in Jamaica, it is because we see the very brink of prosperity and the floodgates that will open up in Jamaica to all Jamaicans, which include members in the diaspora.
Before you go forward, Mr. McFarlane, so what I'm hearing, Minister, is that the ultimate ways to make sure your government will act is the ballot box. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Ambassador. You are reading my mind or looking at my notes? Well, yes, Mr. Terrelonge, that was magnificent. I'm going to answer my own question. And you did give one of my answers, which is the right to vote. Then there's also a legal strategy using the courts. I mean, taking the government to court, and another strategy, but which sometimes can do serious damage to an economy, is to have mass demonstrations like what's going on in Europe right now with the truckers, where they're holding their governments to hostage. But we in the diaspora don't have the ability to vote in Jamaican elections from overseas. And I'm a big proponent of that.
Before you answer, Minister, I've heard you said a number of times, Mr. McFarlane. I'm not sure why you say that. I have many friends who live here in the United States, and they register to vote in Jamaica because they still have their Jamaican passport, and they go and they register, and when election time comes around, they go and vote. So yeah. We don't need anything special or different. If you're a Jamaican, you can vote in Jamaica.
Sure, but they have to fly down to do that. And for me—
Oh, you want to vote virtually?
From overseas, absolutely. When you do the research, you find out that most major democratic countries have their overseas citizens, give them the capability to vote from overseas. It's not difficult to set it up. So my point to Mr. Terrelonge, I'm in favor of going to the courts to get the Jamaican government to begin to set a system like that up. I've given my word that I will put up the first $1,000 to a fund to start a legal case. And this is not something against the JLP at all. This is just a thing that I think we need to seriously begin to look at, and we need to get it done. And the argument that there's too many people overseas that would sway the election is not a legal argument. That's not a legal argument at all. So I would like to hear your response to that idea, and get ready, because I've made my mind up. I've already start saving my money to fund this legal case.
Okay, so your case is you want to have the ability, you want the government to put in a system where persons can stay abroad and vote. And that's a massive investment. So probably your first $1,000 should be towards a fund that will help the government to put that investment in place. But I'm just a quick thought.
But they could attach a fee to it. They could attach a fee to it to cover the expenses of for each person.
Well, persons can't pay people to vote or have any costs associated with voting. Then you go you go along a line that could get very, very difficult. But let me have Minister answer. He's much more capable. Go ahead, Minister. Have you looked at virtual methods of voting or online methods of voting from outside of the country?
Well, before that, I'm just to indicate to Mr. McFarlane that we are aware of the protest taking place.
Breaking up again, Minister. It's not clear.
I check. Is it any clear, Ambassador? No. Apologies. Tech team is coming. So
the same problem you had when we were just started.
Okay. All right. Just 1 second.
And in the meanwhile, In the meanwhile, I'll go to Dr. Claire Nelson, so she will have her question. You can hear, Minister, you can hear the question, so you can answer both at the same time. Go ahead.
I can hear you fine. Are you able to hear? Are you hearing me better now?
No, you're still muffled. So we'll just listen for a while, and we'll have Dr. Claire Nelson speak, and then we'll have
thank you so much, Ambassador, for this opportunity.
Are you back in Washington, Dr.
I
Nelson?
am still in Jamaica. I had an opportunity to be at the Jamaica Stock Exchange conference today. It was fabulous. And I just want to be clear that I am no relation to Dr. Clovis Nelson, much as he would like to claim me as a cousin. I want to focus on why this is happening. We have a lot, first of all, let's say the ambassador has tried in the last 2 years since COVID to really strengthen the, let's say, the engagement of the embassy, first of all, with us in diaspora. And certainly those of us who live in Washington, and even people like Andrew Sharp in particular, who will fly down to make his meetings if necessary, have really been beneficiaries of that approach. So we want to commend Ambassador for that. Ambassador to Minister Terrelonge, and those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Claire Nelson. I am a 40-year veteran of diaspora organizing. I may not be considered a Jamaican diaspora leader because I hold no office in any Jamaican organization, but I do hold office as the founder of the Institute of Caribbean Studies in Washington, D.C., which is the leading Caribbean American diaspora organization. So I must also add that I'm an engineer, and I'm saying this for a reason, and I have experience working on international development. Now, I want us to focus on why this meeting. We don't want a lot of going all over the place. The critical issues are following on this rally or demonstration, which some people might poo-poo. There are issues around crime, which is a big issue for many of us in the diaspora. And a lot of this, I would say, interest or heightened interest came out of the fact that the Prime Minister came to Washington, D.C. and was gifted a grant of several $1 million. And we wanted to have some response on how is that money spent, because U.S. grant money is taxpayers' money in the U.S. And we wanted some response on how was it spent. We wanted to be just kept abreast. Here's what we're trying. Here's what's not working. Here's how we could use your help in your at-risk group.
Dr. Nelson, can you be a bit more specific with that grant? When was that and what money is that?
It was $10 million, I believe, was thereabouts that the Prime Minister met with the Vice President. And we were trying to get some response. So that went out just before COVID or during COVID. We didn't get a response.
Okay, so that's 20, it was $20 million, it was $20 million for youth intervention. So you want more details on that?
We wanted that. And so this, he can't give that answer right now. I'm raising the issue of what it is we're trying to get to, where some of us are so flustered. The second most egregious thing right now for us, apart from our usual complaints about lack of transparency, why is the Prime Minister's wife to Speak of the House? It sends the wrong signal, right? We're concerned about the fact that we are told we have no standing in Jamaica. Now, I have a home in Jamaica. I volunteer to do things in Jamaica all the time. I invest in Jamaica. I have bank accounts in Jamaica. We want to be clear, if we're part of a diaspora which is providing social safety net, then again, how do we clear this up? Again, you may be able to answer it right now. So I don't want you to rush to what I call a political response. We want to put this on our agenda as a process as you prepare for the Diaspora Conference to have us really think through these challenges. And lastly, we're very concerned about the rising seeming lack of attention to the environmental spaces of Jamaica. We're hearing about beachfront not being accepted to fisher folk. There's a controversy around the use of a compound and the cockpit country, which is a major area for Jamaica's endemic species and waterhole. These are critical issues to the future. And I might add, while I add it and I'll shut up, that the Vision 2030 PIOJ website is literally defunct. So I am a passionate believer in Vision 2030. I'm a futurist. I'm a globally known Forbes top 50 female futurist. And here it is. My country, who had a Vision 2030 before the SDGs, we don't have a working dashboard with indicators, names, the ministry organizations who are in charge of this. And I've met with POJ on many occasions, and I can get nowhere. So this can't be answered by you as a quick answer. I'm just saying, these are the things we're concerned about. And let me say one last thing. We are the best ambassadors for Jamaica. We who give money to our high schools alumni. So you don't have to sell us on Jamaica. We're already sold on Jamaica. But Jamaica is where we near the string berry and Jamaica land we love. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for the opportunity to put this on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I always love your passion. Minister, I'm sure you're more than capable of providing, if not all the answers right away, a roadmap to show how these can be answered as you prepare for the Diaspora conference. And I want to say, I didn't realize the page on the PROJ is down. So we have to make sure we get that going. It's very important that we show how we are protection of the environment remains a high priority. And Dr. Nels, you know that Jamaica is one of the few countries in the world that put in even something like a ban on plastic bags. You know, that was a big unpopular move at the time with business people, but we did it. So I know we have started to do some big things in the interest of those goals. So it will be interesting, Minister, to hear where we are. Go ahead, please.
Ambassador, I'm hoping you can hear me clearer now.
We are hearing you clearly now. So you have about 3 questions to answer.
It looks like about 10, Ambassador. Okay, I believe Mr. McFarlane was asking about the right voters and their rights, the rights of voters who live overseas, etc. You know, Mr. McFarlane, what I will say is that, again, there are different views as it relates to giving persons an opportunity to vote whilst not being present in Jamaica or whilst not being registered to vote in Jamaica. Again, you know, the issue really surrounds the fact that there are, as I would have indicated, there are different persons with different views. There are persons who believe that to be registered to vote in Jamaica, that has to be a priority. There are persons who also hold the view that if you, and even members in the diaspora, you know, I listened to one of the senior members of the diaspora, the Janice McIntosh, who is president of the Jamaican Women Association in Florida. And Janice indicated quite clearly on a program in Jamaica last week or 2 weeks ago, she said, but some of us, we recognize that we live in the States. Why should we be able to vote for a government when we do not have the opportunity, when we do not live with the consequences of the decisions that we vote for? Because remember that elections have consequences, and you could have a government for the day that is going to enact sound fiscal policies that is going to lead to the growth and development of the country, or you're going to have a government that adopts a very, take for example, in the 90s, you had a government that adopted a very run-with-it policy that led to, as the Financial Times would have indicated, by 2012, Jamaica was on the brink of financial and economic disaster, destruction. You know, so if you live overseas, you don't have to live, you know, with a debt to GDP ratio of 138%. You don't have to live with an inflation rate of 21.9%, etc. So again, there are some persons who hold that view. There's also the view of, well, what constituency are you voting for? You know, where are you going to be registered? So if you've lived in, you're part of the diaspora, you're second or third generation diaspora, you lived in Baltimore all your life, you've lived in Alaska all your life, you've lived in Hawaii all your life, etc. How do you vote? Which member of parliament are you voting for? And how do we ensure that one constituency does not have now 60,000 members registered on it who don't know the member of parliament, who don't know the work the member of parliament has been doing, who don't know the councillors or the work that the division is doing on the ground, who don't know the needs of the community in place? Because remember that outside of voting, outside of the political system, it's such that we elect the prime minister, or the prime minister is usually the leader of a political party. We don't vote directly for prime ministers here. We don't. The prime minister himself is a member of parliament. So his constituents have to know Is he a suitable member of parliament? What is the work he's doing? When we spoke to him about improvements in healthcare, or improvements in education projects, or improvement in social housing, or to fix up the roads and the infrastructure, when the light gone and the water gone, you know, I mean, is he an effective member of parliament? Is he an effective representative? So people vote on those bases. So all politics is local. When the constituents who are on the ground, when they now determine if this is the person I want to be the member of parliament because they're actually doing the work, they're at their office, they're on the ground, we see them at church, we see them in the good times and the bad times, etc. We see them at graduation, we see them at the funeral services, etc. You know, they now make an informed decision on the basis of the work that they expect their member of parliament to do. And quite frankly, there's some person in the diaspora of the view that we are not able to make that choice, select a member of parliament, because it's not a question of likability. It's a question of the work being done. And I should share this with you, there's no such thing. Listen, after the elections in Portland, and even after the elections in my very own constituency in 2016, there are no safe seats in Jamaica. So you have to be on the ground working. So it's not a popularity concept to say, well, I prefer this party leader or that party, so therefore I just want to vote for that political party. No, you're voting for 63 candidates who offer themselves for service, and you vote for the very best of those 63 because it is recognized that it makes a difference who represents the people. And when you are voting for a representative, you will have to live with the consequences for the next 5 years. So again, those are just different views, which is expressed locally and also even in the diaspora. So, but ultimately, persons anywhere you live in the world, once you are registered and attached to a constituency, you can come home and you do have the right to vote. But we don't have that system of a mail-in ballot or just by virtue of having a birth certificate or a passport, etc. As it relates to Dr. Clare's question, Dr. Clare indicated, again, and Dr. Clare, you know, at the outset in my presentation, my opening remarks, I accepted that there were concerns that were raised, both here in Jamaica nationally, and of course in the diaspora, as it relates to crime and corruption. What I will say is that the figures have demonstrated that murders were down by 7%. It's not where we want it to be, but certainly we are hoping that when you look at the year-to-date figures, as of last week in January, the figures are trending down. And if we continue along this trend, we could have less than 900 murders by the end of the year if we continue on the same trajectory. Because again, the year-to-date figures are already low at the start of this year, and we're down by 7%, with general serious crimes being down by 22% as of last year. So there is work that is being done. Some of the things that we've done is we've invested in ships, as I indicated, to patrol our borders. You know, there's the guns for drugs trade. There is guns for even horse meat and donkey meat.
Hold a minute, Miss Minister. Let us try again to see if we can hear right after donkey meat. I think you went off line. Let us hear you again. No, you're having the
I'm sorry about that. Can you try?
All right. While we're waiting for it to fix again, let us call on Richard Edwards, Trevor Smith, and we see our honor consul in Seattle, Raymond Connell. So Richard Edwards, go ahead, please, while Minister is sorting out. Minister, can you hear while the system is being fixed? Minister, are you hearing while the system is being fixed?
Yes, I'm not. I can hear you. I'm concerned. Are you hearing now better?
You're still not clear. So just
I never see the devices.
All right. So if you can hear, you could just make a note of the questions from three. We're just doing 3 more questions. Mr. Richard Edwards,
yes.
Mr. Trevor Smith, and Consul in Seattle, Raymond Connell. Go ahead, Mr. Edwards.
All right, Ambassador Miles, thank you for taking my call. Thank the Minister for his work and his contribution to Jamaica and his dedication to moving the country forward. You know, again, there's been so much chatter about crime, and I think every well-thinking Jamaican, wherever in the world they live, They want a Jamaica that is crime-free or have tolerable levels of crime where people can move on and feel safely. My contention is when people, for example, say there's a rise in violent crime on the island, and somehow that's because Prime Minister Andrew Holness is not doing enough to address the matter. And when I hear things like that, I'm immediately drawn to respond, and which led me to write a letter to the editor, the Gleaner, the Observer, wherever they want to publish it, to basically say the root of the problem, and this is big, the root of the problem in Jamaica as it relates to crime is Jamaicans' insistence on killing each other, chopping each other to death, shooting each other to death. That's the problem. And if, let's say, the Minister of National Security does nothing tomorrow, let's say the Commissioner of Police does nothing, let's say the Prime Minister does nothing, but we have Jamaicans who wake up tomorrow morning and say to themselves, I'm not going to shoot anybody today. I'm not going to stab anybody today. I'm not going to chop anybody to death today. Let's say every Jamaican wake up tomorrow with that vision. And this is without any political intervention, just at the individual level. We're not killing anybody today. There's your solution right there. And I've said this, and I'll continue to say it. People have been harming each other in this country, Jamaica, for a long time, way before Prime Minister Andrew Holness was born. I personally have no political axe to grind, but when I hear an argument which shifts the blame from a collective set of people, Jamaicans, and then assign it to one person, I think that is just wrong. And I think if we're really serious about crime, which is a legitimate concern that we all have as Jamaicans, let's talk about it in a collective way and stop politicizing the issue of crime. So long as we continue to politicize crime and reduction of crime, it's going to be an issue. So my question is, what is the Jamaicans at home and abroad doing to reduce the incidence of violent crime? Because again, it lies with us.
All right. Thank you so much for that question.
You're
I'm
quite
going to just
welcome.
take the other two questions so that we'll leave Minister to answer all the questions at the end. Mr. Trevor Smith, please go ahead.
Yes, Ambassador, thank you so much. Can you hear me clearly?
Very clearly, go ahead.
Good. A couple years ago, I spent some time with the present Prime Minister in Brooklyn, about 4 or 5 hours. He visited our plant at the time, and we had extended conversations. And at that time, he was not the Prime Minister. And what we discussed at that time was crime and corruption, and he was not the Prime Minister. So at that time, we never recognized the problem of corruption or crime as the Prime Minister's problem. And on my radio program, it is, well, the feedback from everyone is that it's not a party problem, it's a government problem. It doesn't matter which government is in office. We talk about the crime and the corruption. One of the things was when I asked him a question, how are you going to deal with this, Mr. Holness at the time, he said, Trevor, transparency. The only way to fight crime is with transparency. Make everything visible. So I was very happy when he put the code of conduct. The code of conduct that was developed by this Prime Minister, where everyone was supposed to be clear based on the code of conduct that he has to be established. And when it was done, I don't want to put you on the spot, Mr. Minister, but did you file the code of conduct as was mandated by that committee? Because that gives you credibility for me when we talk about corruption. It gives you credibility when the Integrity Commission can say, I have the Diaspora's minister package here and he's filed this package. If that's not the case, then the credibility is out the door when we're talking about problems we have with corruption, crime, and the murder that's taking place. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Mr. Smith. And the last question will come from Consul Raymond Connell. Go ahead, please, Mr. Raymond.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Ambassador. This is my first time asking or getting involved in a dialogue. But Mr. Minister, I was touched, offended by your comments with respect to the voting rights of people who are abroad. And I want to point out to you that voting is a fundamental right. And what you're espousing sounds like a poll tax, where you want people to set ahead of time who they would vote for and all these the criteria that you want to set. And it's moving away from the fundamentality of voting. It's not a privilege, it's a right. And it's up to the individual to determine those kinds of things, the bureaucracy of which party or what they would associate with and the issues. It's up to the person to do whatever they want to do. And it's not your say to deprive millions of people abroad because they may not identify with what you particularly want them to identify with. And I find that offensive. Fundamental right. Thank you.
All right, but before Minister answer, I must say, I think there's a misunderstanding because he actually did not say that. Minister said that everyone abroad, all Jamaicans abroad have the right to come home and vote. His concern was that if you have lived abroad and you don't know, you haven't registered to vote, you don't know where you're voting or who you're voting for, then there's a problem. But certainly you have the right to vote. And I know Mr. McFarland will say he'll even pay for help pay for certain things, the right a tax or something. I don't know if that's the mix up. And we said, no, we would not go into that direction. But there's no tax, there's no limitation on your right to vote if you're a Jamaican able to go home and register and vote. Minister, I want to wrap up, but I see some persons who are all the time on the program and hardly ever speaks. I have to call on Jackie Watson to just wrap up from the call side and hand over to you. I know, again, we're running out of time, but go ahead, please, Jackie Watson.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Also, thank you to Mr. Terrelonge, if you will, Minister Terrelonge. My question is not dealing with all the subjects that was mentioned tonight. Mine is regarding Air Jamaica. What is a possibility of us having our own national airlines? And that question is for specifically for you, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Minister, is your system up and working now? Yeah, I think you're mute. You can, there you are now. Go ahead.
Ambassador, is this any clearer?
A little, go ahead. Let me hear if we can hear it.
We changed mic in the system. Okay, now working. I'm seeing some heads shaking. Just give me some phone, please. You see them? Oh, yes. Let me sign it. I just need to speak on it.
All right. Let me see if there are, while you're still working, we can have two more questions. It means that you're going to have quite a lot to answer. No. Let us. So what is I don't know if Minister is coming on. Minister, can I go ahead and have a few more questions? Or you, what am I hearing? All right. Ms. Young, Mr. Reed, you have Mr. McFarlane, your hands are up, but you asked already. So let me, I don't think we have ever had a question for Mr. Denton Hutchinson, Miss Charmaine Ingleton. So these are new persons. Please go ahead.
No, message to unmute me. And you are definitely with you.
Minister, you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
There's an echo.
All right, I'm on another program. Can you unmute me, please?
All right, we will go with Mr. Hutchinson and Miss Ingleton, and right after Minister, we have to just make a note of all those questions, and either we can hear you or we will make sure we get back the responses to the persons asking. Mr. Denton Hutchinson, Ms. Charmaine Ingleton, are they able to speak? Go ahead.
Madam Ambassador, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, good.
We like when you come on screen.
I'm not in
okay.
in a situation where I always do. But look here.
Okay.
Look here, some years ago, during the Doodles debacle, Minister Bartlett had a meeting with a dinner meeting with a number of us here in New York City. And because of what this Toulouse debacle was going to do, had done and would do to Jamaica. And one thing I'll never forget that he said, he was blunt and frank and said, look, we are family. So let's just talk it as it is. You know, I can deal with all the hyperbole, a famous word of President Biden, and all these superlative and accolades and all that stuff. Are you still there? Hello?
You ask your question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, quickly, because you lost me a while ago. What I'm concerned about is the constant changing of the guard. Before his predecessor got settled into this job of minister with responsibility for diaspora and affairs. Before you know it, he's gone, and another. And maybe election is coming up, and then there's going to be changes again. And there's this constant disruption of the whole process. It's like starting all over with the refresh a new minister and get him up to speed and go through this thing over and over and over. Sometimes I wonder if it is not it's not a strategy.
Okay, so I hear your question. You find the change of ministers disruptive to long-term policies. Thank you for sharing. Ms. Ingleton, we'll come right back to you from the minister. Ms. Ingleton, if you could share yours quickly. Is Ms. Ingleton on? Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, good night, Ambassador.
Yes.
This is to Mr. Terrelonge. Mr. Terrelonge, what is really going to be done about the crimes in Jamaica?
The what?
The crimes in Jamaica. I was visiting Jamaica a couple of weeks ago. On December 21st, I ventured to Mandeville. About a couple minutes after I left the location to Mandeville, someone was killed at that location. I came back and could not come through that direction. I left Jamaica again on the 5th of January in a hurry to avoid the snow here in the US. I changed my flight that Friday morning and left Jamaica. When I landed in Baltimore that very night, another person was killed between where my mom lived, at least a quarter mile from shooting. There were 2 killings.
Okay.
The December prior, I was in Jamaica, and the national was killed at the supermarket down the street. This really bothers me. What can be done about the crime in Jamaica?
All right, Mr. Ingleton, I hear you. You're concerned about the crime in Jamaica. And I know living in Baltimore, you experience quite a lot of those problems too. So you're concerned about it around you. Thank you for your question. And let us turn over now to Minister. Minister, please answer as many as you can because we now have to wrap up.
All right, thank you, Ambassador. Are you able to hear me now?
Very well.
All right, but I believe I think I'm blurred on the screen. Can you see me okay on the screen, or
Yeah,
am I
you're
blurred?
okay. Once we're hearing you, we're okay.
All right, very well. So I have here notes from, I believe I'm still at Dr. Claire, and I had indicated, but you said now the notes are. Dr. Claire had spoke. All right, we spoke about the elections. Dr. Claire had also asked about. She's mentioned about Madam Speaker. Just to indicate, Dr. Claire, that the election of the Speaker of the House was done by a very transparent process. The truth is, Mrs. Holness is a member of Parliament. That she happens to be the wife of the Prime Minister is also just another fact. But she is a very strong member of Parliament. She has been elected twice to the House of Representatives with very, very good support from her constituents. She's a very active member of Parliament. In fact, she is widely reputed as one of the best members of Parliament in Jamaica, again, by virtue of the work that she's doing on the ground, etc. Her thoughts and ideas are also very, very clearly expressed in the Parliament. And just to indicate that both the members who represent the Jamaica Labour Party on the government side and members who represent the People's National Party on the opposition side of the House of Parliament, both sides of Parliament represented or elected the Speaker of the House. Both parties voted in agreement for her to be Speaker, as well as she would have had sufficient experience having served for one term before as the Deputy Speaker of the House. So there was mutual agreement on both sides of the House. So again, there was nothing untoward about that process. It was done with clear transparency and with the full agreement or acquiescence of both sides of the House. As it relates to, you indicated about some, I don't know, 10 or $20 million, etc., from the US government. I'm not aware of that. I can get further some further information on that. However, what I will say is that usually governments don't give a check or money like that. Money is usually given in terms of grant aid. So take, for example, in last year, as a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we were able to secure, by virtue of our bilateral and multilateral agreements, some $4.5 billion in aid to Jamaica. So if you look at a tablet program, when the government of South Korea gives us over 4,000 tablets for 4,000 students in Jamaica, it is done through a gift of $600,000 US, but the government does not get the $600,000 US in hand. The government gets the tablets as a point of developmental aid. When the Chinese give Jamaica, for example, developmental aid in the sum of $18 million US, which goes towards security, crime, and also health supplies and equipment, it is not, they don't give us the $18 million. We get it in terms of, again, the goods, the supplies, the technical training, the services, and so forth. So I do know that the JCF has been undergoing a rapid recruitment process, as well as a reformation process as well. We do know in terms of, as I would have indicated, and I believe your last out of Miss Ingleton out of Baltimore would have again had a crime question, which is why I indicated when there is instability in places like Haiti, Jamaica has to respond. So our Prime Minister was lauded again by the international community for his position that positions Jamaica at the lead to ensure that we have the persons of special interest, that special interest groups, which also sees the likes of former Prime Minister Mr. Bruce Golding heading that group, working with former Prime Ministers from the Caribbean, working with our partners in the US and Canada and also Kenya to ensure that there's peace and stability return to Haiti, because instability in another country can spread to your country and it can destabilize the region. So you see the influx of guns by virtue of the guns for drugs trade, and it has also extended to food, which includes like horse meat and donkey meat and so forth. So we have invested in ships and in speedboats to secure our borders. And as I would have indicated, there are members in the diaspora who've indicated that they too can do more to ensure that the shipment of guns, etc., it is restricted. So we have to protect what leaves the ports out of America, what protects our ports in Jamaica as well. So there's also a heavy reliance on technical capabilities so that we can scan and see exactly what comes in, etc. I would have indicated also in terms of reforming the police stations. These millions of dollars have also been spent, because when you boost police morale, when you increase the equipment for them, when you increase in terms of cameras, when you look at the Project Star program, when you look at also equipping them with more motor vehicles and bikes and so forth, again, these are measures that help their quick response, but with a heavy reliance on technology as well. You look at the legislation that have been put in place, like the anti-gang legislation in Parliament, you would have seen several gangs that you'd have heard about for the last 30 years or 20 years. The gangs are being dismantled, gang members are before the court, etc. Some are receiving longer penalties. So there are many things that's happening as a part of an overarching crime strategy here in Jamaica. And we're seeing the reduction, as I've indicated, of 7% in murder and some 22% in terms of dangerous or serious crimes as of last year. There was also a question as it relates to, I'm just trying to go through them quickly, as it relates to, I'm seeing here the environment. Again, this administration over the last 8 years have demonstrated great respect for the environment. We see the environment as a tangible heritage for all mankind, for future generations of Jamaica. So what have we done? We have protected the Goat Islands, including the Keys by Hellshire. We have also, you look at public spaces, ensuring that there are green spaces, taking into consideration mental health. You can look at the development of Harmony Bay in Montego Bay. Just last week, the Prime Minister broke ground in Portmore to build a resilience park, which will have sufficient green spaces as well. And we've making the connection between green spaces, the environment, and mental health. So the resilience park in Portmore, you're looking at a budget of 4.4 billion Jamaican dollars. Again, this is all Jamaican funding from our surpluses having regard to the growth of the economy and the reduction in the debt to GDP ratio. So there is this fiscal space. We've also secured protection for the Blue and Drunkard Mountains. These are now world-recognized heritage sites. Again, so no other government would have secured as much space in the Blue and Drunkard Mountains as this government has by making them designated protected areas and heritage sites for all Jamaicans, recognizing that, again, as I indicated, this is now a benefit for all humanity as a part of the heritage of Jamaicans. So we have protected the environment. Minister Mattis Samuda has also done a tremendous job. We secured the plastic ban even before several countries in Western Europe and what we call the developed world. We have a plastic ban in Jamaica, again, to protect our coastlines, our shorelines, our sea, our oceans, and marine animals as well. And more work continues to be done, etc., in particular, including organizations like NEPA and the Jamaica Environmental Trust and so forth. I'm seeing here about, again, I believe Ambassador answered that. Ambassador, I know you've indicated that you're out of time. So I'm just trying to go.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
All right. As it relates to voting, again, Ambassador, thank you for indicating that at no point did I say that anyone should be denied the right to vote or that voting is a privilege. Voting is a fundamental right. And I would have indicated a key strategy in ensuring that you get the government that you deserve is by, and I pointed to the index finger, is recognizing that you have that right to vote. As a Black man, I always speak proudly about our heritage, our ancestry. And don't get me wrong, Jamaica is a land out of many one people. But I recognize also that more than 90% of our population are Afro-descendant. Our forefathers who were called terrorists and hooligans, etc., who were called and treated like less than animals, they were freedom fighters who fought and died. So all of us could remove the shackles of enslavement, could remove the shackles of colonialism so that we have the right to vote. It is an inherent right. This is the government that went before Parliament and declared declared our ancestors who fought against an oppressive colonial system, a system of slavery. We had them declared as freedom fighters, and we absolved any criminal record that the former colonial power would have attached to their names. So you're talking, all those revolutionaries who would have fought and died so that we could be free. This government, because we recognize the right of all Jamaicans, including the right to vote. So that is a right that we recognize very, very well. And again, we encourage all Jamaicans to get registered in a constituency, that you get registered in a constituency, and of course, come home and vote. And then the last one I have here, I'm just kind of flipping through quickly, Air Jamaica. Again, certainly the all Jamaicans would love to see a national carrier. But again, we have to consider the fiscal space. I'm sure this is a question. If you speak to Minister Bartlett, I know he would perhaps love it, because again, it's a national carrier. All of us, it would invoke great pride. But again, there's also the fiscal responsibility in terms of how that would work. And so I suppose I can speak to Minister Clark as well to see how a future national airline, how that would look, etc. I believe that is what I have so far. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you so much. Trevor Smith had asked about can you just come on back and just remind me, please, Mr. Smith? I just see you waving your hand, meaning your question was not answered. The Integrity Commission wanted to know, Minister, if you have declared your own Integrity Commission, just to make sure that the transparency or the code of ethics for our leaders, that you believe in it as a Minister for the Diaspora Affairs. Yes, please go ahead and answer that one.
Well, certainly, Ambassador, as members of Parliament, we all carry ourselves within a particular code of conduct. And you will recall that just a few weeks ago, the Parliament, we're now looking at our code of conduct, our ethics as parliamentarians, and that is being discussed within the Parliament. I was actually on that committee going through the roles and functions of parliamentarians, the ethics and required behavior and so forth. And it is something that we all abide by, and we appreciate the responsibility that we bear as servants of the public.
And so, Minister, we appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate your passion and the time that you have taken to answer all these questions. And now we just give you the last few words to have a wrap up.
Thank you, Ambassador. Ambassador, again, I must say my thanks to you for giving me this opportunity to connect with members across the diaspora, in particular in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. And of course, I know we must have persons from Virginia. And again, I saw earlier where there was about close to 300 persons online, persons in Maryland, no doubt, and of course, New York, Florida, and the wider US area, and of course, those across. So to the diaspora, your contributions have been instrumental throughout this journey of Jamaica growing from poverty to prosperity and going from strength to strength, whether through your investments, whether through your human intellect and financial capital. You continue to be an integral part of Jamaica's success story. I want us all to face the future together with determination, with unity, with that spirit of Jamaicaness. Let us continue to work hand in hand to build an even brighter future for our beloved Jamaica, a future focused on peace, a future focused on productivity. As I mentioned before, I look forward to seeing everyone at the 10th biennial Jamaica Diaspora Conference, which will be held here in Jamaica and Montego Bay in June. And I want to wish our members across the diaspora all the success as we plan the regional conference for US, which is slated for April. You know, Jamaica truly is a success story. We always like to say, you know, that added, we little but we taller. And it means so much to me in particular as a young man from Grand Spen, Ambassador, because there are some persons who think that, you know, that sometimes as a minister of government, you just get to sit in the big chair. You know, that's not it at all. You know, as a young man born and raised in Grand Spen, who lived in a one-bedroom board house, you know, with my parents and siblings, etc., we worked hard, focused on education. You know, my mom used to teach us that if you want good, it was a for run. And as I like to say, an education is the best gift we can give to the children of this country. And so for me to be a Jamaican is an experience. You know, I studied in England, I lived and worked in Spain, but I came home because I knew that I wanted to make a valuable contribution to my country and that I wanted a seat at the table so that I could serve my country in this manner. You know, so it is that sense of resilience that all of us as Jamaicans serve as ambassadors, as brand ambassadors for Jamaica. So in addition to Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley and Usain Bolt and Shelley and Fraser Price and, you know, I mean, all the greats, you know, of Jamaica, the Jimmy Cliffs and the Millie Small and of course, you know, Herb McKenna's, you are all ambassadors of this great nation that is Jamaica. And to make Jamaica greater, one individual indicated, we put aside the politics and we focus on that unity. We focus on Jamaica. None of us wants Jamaica to fail. If Jamaica fails, then we all fail. You could be the richest, you could be the good steward of Jamaica. If the economy crashes, then everything you own or hold dear to in Jamaica, it also crashes. Jamaica's success story is a success story for every Jamaican. And to members in the diaspora, remember now, when Jamaica ambassador, I'm going to segue into a little into my little Jamaican patois, see. But members of the diaspora, remember now, you know, when Jamaica is growing and the success story, nobody now calling from Spanish Town and Portmore and Kingston and Montego Bay and say, beg you send some Western Union. No, you can say to them, no. What Western Union talking about? What MoneyGram? What bank transfer? The economy is growing. We're seeing the figures. We're seeing the investments and so forth. So that is the future of Jamaica. A success story for Jamaica is a success story for a diaspora as well. So I look forward as the minister with portfolio responsibility for diaspora affairs to continue to work with you all. I will see you in the US in April, Ambassador and all members, and I will see you in Jamaica in June for the 10th annual biennial Jamaica conference. Blessings and love to you all. Do have, as we go into the weekend, I wish for you all peace, prosperity, and great productivity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. Very passionate and about your job, and we appreciate you. And we appreciate that you had a choice and decided to come in to do public service. And we also appreciate your openness in answering all questions to the best of your ability. That is really, everyone, what this forum is about. You know, I think I've told you before, many other ambassadors, many persons are amazed that we have a program where any Jamaican, no matter what is your standing in life, any Jamaican can speak directly to the ambassador, to the prime minister, to any minister of government or any special guest. And it's because I want the essence of what this program is about is to be understood, is about respect and valuing each other as Jamaicans and friends of Jamaica. So I know there are some persons, or well, a person was complaining that I have not called on him because his hand was up. And the reason is because he had insulted someone on the program before. And we don't tolerate insulting or disrespecting each other on this program. So, but we don't believe that persons can't change because sometimes you don't know. So I look forward to having a conversation with persons who feel they're not being given a fair chance to discuss the protocol of this program so that going forward, everyone feels comfortable to participate. And so again, I thank you all for coming on this program and for sharing, you know, your thoughts and your love for Jamaica, your concerns and your, you know, the vision of how we can move forward together. And I look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you.